they're all in the polish. Don't get too gun holes. We got time. Hello, everybody. Too loud? Too loud? Yes. Better? Whisper? All right. I'm not used to the microphone. I'm Jarrett. Vibrant goes by J. Vibrant on pretty much every forum that's got to do with some old piece of machinery. Any questions? Do it backwards? No? All right. So those who have followed, this is my home foundry. I've done some crank and tank because I've cobbled them together with a couple different propane tanks. The whole idea is I've got several very old turn-of-the-century machines that simply don't have parts, and you simply cannot buy parts for these machines. You can't even buy a parts machine for these machines. So I needed something to create my own. The natural transition was to try to cast these. You can fabricate them, and there's a couple of people that are fabricating parts that I'm going to attempt to cast. But I'm a bit of a purist, and I wanted to do an original cast part. The goal was cast iron, because that's what everybody loves, is cast iron. I can do bronze, brass, aluminum, pretty much anything you can think of. But cast iron was the goal, so I constructed Frank around doing cast iron. The inside of Frank is a special refractory cement. I forget the chemical composition, but it's got alumina or something. A lot of reflective elements, reflective qualities. And he's good up to 3,200 degrees. Cast iron is somewhere around 23, 24. I don't ever expect to do anything more than cast iron. You could probably do steel if I really wanted to. But when you start to get into those temperatures, there's some major safety concerns, even to the extent of just looking at a pot of molten cast iron can damage your eyesight. So you need proper, welding type equipment, or you're going to get permanent arc flash. So anyways, Frank is born of 2 propane tanks. Has everybody followed the threads? Do I need to go through everything? Nobody's seen the thread at all? No one? You all just happened to drive by and saw the big banner? Frank started out as 2 propane tanks. I won't go into everything, but I thought that a propane tank, 20-pound propane tank, was 16 inches in diameter, and I scaled everything around my crucible for cast iron. I didn't bring it out because it's actually valuable, and I didn't want to risk breaking it because it even hasn't been tempered yet. But essentially, you gauge what you're going to do parts-wise, buy a crucible to handle that size part, and you build everything else accordingly. So everything's measured from the gap between the crucible to your hot face. The hot face is jargon for the inside GIE. Your vents, everything is based around the crucible size. So that's what I did. Fortunately, cast iron takes a lot of heat, and everything else doesn't take quite that much heat. So I've made some crucibles. Matt's made the pretty stainless one. The ones that are ugly are mine. Sorry. But I have so far melted aluminum and bronze or brass. I've got some ingots here. So that's brass. That's 1700 degrees to start. This was pouring like water, and I couldn't feed it fast enough. So I was probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 18 to 1900 degrees when I made this ingot. The aluminum, I was probably about the same. I poured it too hot, but I'm experimenting. This is a lot of trial and error on my part. I'm not an expert at all. Don't take anything I say as gospel. That's not the case. If you're thinking of experimenting with this, do your own research. Don't listen to me. I'm not a pro. The first thing I started doing was developing a burner. Now, I know nobody here has seen the thread, so I'm going to start from the beginning. Originally, I was going for just a drip-style burner, which all it is just an inlet of air, fast-moving air, and just a little copper tube. It just drips oil. And the whole premise is that it's like a diesel engine. You need to get your furnace hot, and as soon as the oil enters that hot area, it atomizes. And when it's atomized, it can burn. Just a glob of oil doesn't burn, it needs heat. So the whole idea is just drip tube, hot air, blow in. You can't get simpler than a drip style burner. The plus side is it makes it incredibly flammable. A lot of people use propane, And propane, although works great for aluminum and probably bronze, you start to struggle when you get up into brass and cast iron temperatures. Because again, because cast iron was my goal, I was doing oil. So this is the last rendition of my burner. And I did this purposely because I could never make up my mind to be modified. So this is technically still a drip tube burner. Typically, the tube just comes in here. The tube just comes in here into the airstream. Mine, however, shoots along the entire axis of it. This is for propane. I don't think we can see that. I preheat with propane. Some guys, they just stoke a wood fire in their foundry for about an hour and then they turn on the oil. Some guys, they use compressed air with their oil, and it atomizes right out of the nozzle. And atomized oil you can light. Again, I atomize with heat. They atomize with air. I wanted to stay away from a compressor because it's loud, very annoying. I already have one and I can't move it as it is. So anyways, I preheat with propane. Comes out this little nozzle. I'm going to fire it up as soon as I'm done here. I'm going to preheat them, and then I switch to oil. I also plumbed it for compressed air if I ever decide to change my mind and run a compressor. This funny little blob up here is actually a separator for pneumatic systems, for compressed air. My pump is a metering pump, so it's a pistonic pump. It moves back and forth, and it pulses like this. And when I get them up to temperature, you'll hear it. It's a flaw in the system. I have to change the pump. But for those people that are into home construction, I've heard of the phenomenon of water hammer. I use the same type of technique to get rid of the pulsing. So basically, this was just a shock absorber of air. So as the pulse came into here, the air compressed because you can't compress the fluid, and it was supposed to suppress that. It didn't work at all. I left it on because I didn't have the fitting to go back to my original setup. But anyway, so I've also got a needle valve that controls my oil flow. It's a fine control, whereas that is pretty coarse. That pump originally was only good for about a little less than a gallon an hour. I've modified it. It does a little over 2.5 gallons an hour. I run probably about 3/4 of a gallon an hour. A gallon an hour will get me to cast iron temperatures. I'm not there yet. I'm working up to it. I want to perfect method before I start to get ready to get to those temperatures and those types of risks. So anyways, the modification where I deviated is now I've got this leg. That's where my compressed air is, or comes in, or not compressed air, my blower air. And that's electrical tape. And I'm not changing it. I'm proud of it. It's as half-assed as you can get, but hey, that's the way I roll. Inside here, and you're not going to be able to see it. This is really close. See a little turbine in there? Yeah. There's a little turbine in there, and they call it a turbulator. That's jargon by the casting guys. And that's just to swirl the air and help break up the oil, atomize a little bit further. So anyways, it's all squeezed together. I physically disconnect the propane and I take it away after I'm done preheating because it's a hazard. Waste oil, again, does not burn unless it's vaporized. So the most catastrophic failure I can have is my oil line blows off. And all that makes is a big puddle on the ground. There's no hazard. Propane will explode, as everybody knows. So I disconnect it and I take it away. And at that point, my only hazard is when I start to pour. These hazards are very, very large. The problem with casting, and when you start to get to the upper ranges of temperature, moisture. Molten metal reacts very, very violently to moisture, and the smallest little amount will actually cause an explosion, a steam explosion. If you spend some time on YouTube and you look them up, you'll see these accidents posted all the time. People make these ingot trays, like I have. And it's just some angle iron all welded together. And it's quite heavy, so I'm going to put it right down. But people will do this in the morning, and just the morning dew is enough to cause a steam explosion and spray molten metal everywhere. This is why I backed them off a little bit. It's a nice sunny day. It's been sitting out in the sun. I'm not worried about it. But there needs to be some distance because I can't run for you. I'm awfully quick when I'm scared that I won't do anything. So I'm fairly new to the casting game. Here is my first attempt at a casting. As you can tell, it's kind of gnarly. These are the wheels that I'm going to replace Frank's plastic wheels. Plastic obviously isn't the best when you're dealing with a couple thousand degrees. So I was hoping to replace these before I got here. I didn't pan out. This is the art to casting. It's not making the foundry, that was very easy. Making molds is where it gets tricky. Pattern making and developing your molds for proper pouring, it's an art. And someday I hope to get good at it. I don't expect to be anytime soon. In this particular case, you can see all of this. What happened was, I poured in this little knob. This was supposed to be my vent. So when I saw molten aluminum here, I'm supposed to stop pouring. Well, what ended up happening, I cut them both down in the bottom half of the mold. So when it got up to the halfway point, I actually caused a vapor lock. So the top half of my mold didn't fill. And when I kept pouring aluminum, the hydraulic pressure popped open the top of the mold, and it all sprayed out the back end. Sprayed is a bad word. It kind of just slightly poured out. I wasn't in any real danger, and I've got a lot of PPE, personal protective equipment, so I wasn't overly concerned about that, but it was very disappointing because I spent a good 2.5 to 3 hours making this mold, which is a complete waste of time. But I learned some stuff, so it's not all that bad. I can't get too close to the speakers, I'm sorry, but over here I've got some apparatus that I've been making on the fly. This is the pouring shank for my crucible. Now my crucible for the cast iron gets exceedingly hot, like I said, upwards of 2300 degrees, so you need to stay away from it. So the whole point of this is to pull the pot, and I'm actually out here. So if I get too close, I'm going to get burnt. I don't have reflective suits, and they're awfully expensive. So I need to stay away and pour this way. This funky looking little caliper is what pulls the crucible out of Frank. So it's a little piston action that does that. Okay? The idea is, Frank's up to temp. I need to get that guy out of there. I flare it open. I drop this in, and the weight fits together. That's the way these things work. That's the way you want to design them. Because you don't want to have to think about holding, manipulating anything when you've got this big molten pot of whatever in front of you. So you design everything around making it easy and brain dead. You need to map out your area as best you can. Make sure there's no tripping hazards. Know exactly where you're going to go. Place your molds beside your ingot trays. You always want to melt more than what you're going to be pouring. You don't want to run out with 95% to go because then you get a dead part. I'm not too sure what else to touch on. Frank is now running on vegetable oil. Originally I was using motor oil. Motor oil I thought was going to be easy to get my hands on, but there's a lot of regulations when it comes to motor oil, and shops don't like giving it up. And I only changed my oil every 5,000 kilometers, so that doesn't work out too well. But, so I went to vegetable oil. It has the same amount of punch, if not more. The downside is it's got a lot of little bits and nasty chunks in it, so I have to filter it a little bit first. But it's really easy to get my hands on. Works great. Smells nice. Fish and chips is a lot better than a big looming cloud of death. And I'm going to fire it up in a few minutes. Does everybody want to see me turn it on? Yes? No? No one saw the threads. They haven't seen this yet, right? Oh. Who's got a lighter?
I got one.
There we go. Might have a lighter. So, for my propane feed, it's just an oxyacetylene line. It's not the appropriate thing. Apparently, propane has a little acidic qualities to it, and will eat these lines. I need to upgrade. I just haven't done it yet. I've also got a spark suppressor, or flame back receptor. Suppressor, sorry. It's just, I had it, so I used it. Why not? It's just an extra safety, level of safety. That goes on there. The blower is actually from a kid's bouncy castle. You've seen those at the playgrounds and whatnot. It has an incredible amount of air. Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be. I don't know them, so that's okay. What am I doing? I need a piece of paper. Anybody got a piece of paper I can borrow for a heartbeat? I'm not going to give it back. No? There. Anyone? Somebody's got it. I can't come forward.
Make an airplane and no fly.
know, not very exciting. It is on. Trust me, it's on. I start crank out at about 5 pounds of PSI for the 5 pounds of PSI. 5 PSI for propane. And then I turn it up just a little bit. Just want to come in and touch the end.
Yeah,
So my burner isn't designed to work with propane, so it doesn't burn it all that well. There we go. So I've cracked open, I've got a butterfly valve with this blower, and I don't use the blower with propane because it just blows the flame out. It has way too much meat, so I just throw the butterfly valve just enough to feed the propane until it gets to this point. And everybody want to see it? There's nothing to see. You can't see anything. You can't actually see the flame in the light of day. Last night I fired it up to blow the dew off of it. You can see the flame. Propane just burns so cleanly. There's nothing really to see at this point. Unfortunately, I have to run it this way for about 15 minutes or so to get the hot phase, which is the ID, up until before I can turn the oil on. I still have to finish the mold that we're going to attempt today. So I'm going to leave it as is for the time being. I'm going to let it get up to temp and turn the oil on. When I do, you'll know it. It makes a lot more noise at that point. I'm going to put the blower on. If you want to come by, if you want to stand with me, I'm okay if you guys take a look. But when things start to get really hot, I'm going to have to ask you to stay back. At this point, I don't know if I got anything else going on. Anybody have any questions on that? Anything at all? Did I cover everything? Not it's red. Canadian woodworking. We happen to find the site. It's called Frank and Tank. This is Frank. I don't know what's. Oh, Kevin's got a question. What's up, Kevin?
What's your wife think of all this?
I put a lot of videos on the forum, and I've actually got one where I had the family come out when I first fired it up with oil. And did I include the one where I set off the fire alarm? Did I put that on the forum?
I haven't seen it.
Well, when I first fired up with waste oil, the cloud that came off this thing was just ridiculous. Like it was like a tire fire. It set off the fire alarm in the house my folks live in, and it took us a good while to calm it all down. Fortunately, the neighbors didn't call the cops on me, or the fire department, sorry. But she gets a big kick out of it, and like I think every wife, they just kind of shake their head and just go about their day. That's what mine does. But she's been great. She lets me indulge in these types of things. And she does, you guys get to see me dumb stuff. So she's the most important person in the world. So anyways, if there's nothing to ask, about 15-20 minutes time, I'm going to fire up the oil. And it's going to be a little bit longer before we start to get into an actual melt. It's going to be about 45 minutes to an hour to get a full pot of molten whatever Matt's got over there. And we're going to try to pour the cart. I'm sure Karen will get back on the blower, let everybody know we're going to attempt that. Hope you stick around and enjoy the rest of your day.